Constitutional monarchy, S tier. Constitutional monarchy is the cheat code of government. It combines tradition with accountability, and somehow it actually works. The monarch serves as head of state, a living symbol of national identity and continuity. But they don't actually run things. Elected officials handle legislation and policy. The crown represents stability. Parliament handles change. You get the best of both worlds. Look at the data. The happiest, wealthiest, most stable countries are disproportionately constitutional monarchies. Norway, Denmark, Sweden, Netherlands, Japan, Canada, Australia, New Zealand. These aren't accidents. The system produces results. Why does it work? The monarch provides a unifying figure above politics. When elections get ugly, the crown stays neutral. National identity has a human face that doesn't change every 4 years. Meanwhile, democratic mechanisms ensure governance reflects the people's will. Power transfers smoothly because real power was always in democratic institutions. Federalism, S tier. Federalism solves the problem of scale. It lets massive nations function without collapsing into chaos or tyranny. The concept is simple. Divide power between central and regional governments. The national level handles things needing coordination, like defense and currency. States or provinces handle local matters where one-size-fits-all fails. Different regions can experiment with different policies. The United States, Germany, Switzerland, Australia, Canada, large, diverse nations that function relatively well share this system. Competition between regions drives improvement. If one state's policies work better, others can copy them. If a policy fails, damage is contained. The whole nation doesn't suffer for one bad experiment. Federalism also diffuses conflict. Groups that might otherwise fight for control of central government can govern themselves locally. Different regions with different values can coexist because they're not forcing their preferences on each other. For governing large, diverse populations, federalism consistently outperforms alternatives. Republic, A tier. A republic puts power in elected representatives rather than monarchs or direct popular vote. Citizens elect people to study issues, debate options, and make informed decisions. This creates a buffer between momentary passions and actual policy. The founders were terrified of direct democracy. They'd seen mobs. They knew crowds could be manipulated. A republic introduces friction. Bad ideas have to survive committee meetings, floor debates, procedural hurdles. Some still get through, but fewer. Republics can be designed well or poorly. Strong institutions, independent courts, separation of powers make republics robust. Weak institutions make them vulnerable to capture by factions or demagogues. The structure matters more than the label. The key is preventing any single group from accumulating too much power. Distribute authority, create checks, maintain accountability. A tier because republics work reliably when constructed properly. Most nations can become republics, not all can become monarchies. Before we get into the next tier, a quick word. If you want to go deeper on any of this, who actually has the best government, what the research says, what historians argue, there's a tool I've been using called ChatLLM by Abacus AI. You go to chatllm.abacus.ai/EYJ and you get every major AI model in one place. ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, Grok, DeepSeek, all of them. Their Route LLM feature automatically picks the best model for whatever you're asking. So if you want to research a specific government system or understand a political concept, you're getting the smartest AI for that exact question without choosing manually. It also does image generation, video generation, and they have a deep agent that can build entire apps for you. All of this for $10 a month. Cheaper than any single subscription. Visit chatllm.abacus.ai/EYJ or click the link in the description. Direct democracy, B tier. Direct democracy lets citizens vote on policies themselves. No representatives making decisions for you, pure self-governance. Switzerland comes closest to this model. Citizens regularly vote on specific laws and constitutional amendments. It works reasonably well there. producing policies that genuinely reflect public preference. People feel ownership of their government in ways representative systems struggle to match. The appeal is obvious. Why trust politicians when you can decide yourself? No corruption, no special interests capturing representatives, no elected officials ignoring their constituents. But problems emerge at scale. Not everyone can study every issue deeply. Voters make decisions on vibes and headlines rather than careful analysis. B tier because it works in specific conditions, but those conditions are rare. Usually needs mixing with representative elements to function. Socialism, B tier. Socialism puts major industries under public ownership rather than private control. In theory, production serves society rather than shareholders. Scandinavian countries blend socialism with capitalism effectively. High taxes fund extensive public services, healthcare, education, infrastructure. Strong labor protections balance power between workers and employers. These nations consistently rank among the happiest and most prosperous. But they're not purely socialist. Private enterprise exists, markets function. What they've done is redistribute more and provide robust safety nets. Call it social democracy. Pure socialism struggles because central planners can't match markets at coordinating complex economies. Prices signal scarcity and desire efficiently. Without them, you get shortages and misallocation. The Soviet Union had 5-year plans. It also had breadlines. B tier because mixed systems with socialist elements produce good outcomes. Pure socialism has a worse track record. Oligarchy, C tier. Oligarchy means rule by the few. A small group holds power through wealth, military control, family connections, or institutional capture. Every system tends toward oligarchy eventually. Democracies develop political dynasties and donor classes. Republics see the same families rotating through power. Even communist revolutions produced party elites living better than the masses they claimed to serve. Some oligarchies function reasonably well. Singapore under Lee Kuan Yew was effectively oligarchic, but produced remarkable prosperity and stability. Competent elites making long-term decisions can outperform chaotic democracies. The problem is succession and accountability. When oligarchs serve their own interests rather than the nation's, decline follows. Russia's oligarchy extracted wealth rather than building it. Without mechanisms forcing accountability, oligarchies drift toward extraction. C tier because oligarchy can work when elites are competent and public-spirited, but usually doesn't. The system depends too heavily on character. Absolute monarchy, D tier. Absolute monarchy means one person holds total power by birthright. No parliament, no constitution. The monarch's word is law. This system dominated human history. Kings and emperors ruled most civilizations for most of recorded time. Some absolute monarchs were excellent, others catastrophically bad. That randomness is the problem. Good kings accomplished remarkable things. No gridlock, no committees, decisions made and implemented quickly. Long-term planning across decades. Frederick the Great, Akbar of India, certain Roman emperors. They prove autocracy can work. But you don't choose your monarch. Heredity brings whatever genetics and upbringing produce. Competent father, incompetent son. The succession gamble means instability is built in. One bad ruler can undo generations of progress. Additionally, absolute power corrupts. No feedback mechanisms, no accountability. Sycophants replace honest advisors. D tier, because the system works only when you get lucky with rulers. That's not a system, it's a gamble. Plutocracy, D tier. Plutocracy is ruled by the wealthy. Money determines political power. The rich make decisions affecting everyone. In theory, most nations reject this. In practice, many function as plutocracies regardless of official structure. Campaign finance, lobbying, media ownership, regulatory capture. Wealth translates to influence through dozens of mechanisms. The argument for plutocracy is that successful people know how to manage resources. They've proven competence. Let winners run things. The counter-argument is that what makes people rich and what makes good governance are different skills. Plutocracies tend toward policies benefiting the wealthy at others' expense. Tax structures favor capital over labor. Public goods get underfunded while private luxuries flourish. The danger is when wealth captures democracy entirely, using its forms while hollowing out its substance. D tier, because concentrated wealth making collective decisions rarely serves collective interests. Theocracy. E tier. Theocracy means religious authority runs government. God's law, as interpreted by clergy, becomes civil law. Dissent becomes heresy. The appeal is certainty. No endless debates about values. Divine command settles questions. For true believers, theocracy feels righteous. The problems are obvious from outside. Which religion? Whose interpretation? What happens to non-believers? History's theocracies haven't been gentle to heretics, minorities, or anyone questioning orthodoxy. When religious and political power merge, persecution follows. Iran since 1979 hasn't produced flourishing. Economic stagnation, brain drain, social repression. Theocracy also stagnates because doctrine resists change. Adapting requires reinterpreting sacred texts, which threatens authorities whose power derives from owning interpretation. Innovation becomes dangerous. E tier, because theocracies consistently produce oppression and stagnation. Military junta. E tier. Military juntas happen when armies seize control, usually claiming to save the nation from crisis. Generals become governors. Soldiers enforce policy. The immediate aftermath often brings order. Chaos that triggered the takeover subsides. Corruption gets punished spectacularly. Decisive action replaces political paralysis. Some people welcome military rule, at least initially. But soldiers aren't trained to govern. They understand command structures, not economic policy. They know how to win battles, not build institutions. The skills making good generals rarely make good administrators. Military regimes typically extract wealth rather than create it. Officers enrich themselves. Military budgets bloat. Productive sectors get neglected. Argentina, Nigeria, Myanmar. The pattern repeats across continents. Exit is problematic. Juntas rarely leave voluntarily. Countries emerge from military rule weaker than they entered. E tier, because military government solves short-term crises while creating long-term disasters. Dictatorship. E tier. Dictatorship concentrates power in one person without hereditary justification or divine mandate. Just raw control, usually taken by force or manipulation. Some dictators achieve remarkable things. Lee Kuan Yew transformed Singapore from swamp to metropolis. Deng Xiaoping opened China. The efficiency argument isn't baseless. Unchecked power can move fast when wielded well. But dictators aren't selected for competence. They're selected for ruthlessness and luck. The same traits enabling seizure of power don't enable good governance. You get occasional benevolent dictators by accident, not design. Even good dictators create succession problems. They can't live forever. What follows is usually chaos, or another dictator who's probably worse. The system has no stable equilibrium. Most dictatorships aren't benevolent anyway. They're predatory. North Korea isn't an aberration. It's dictatorship without lucky exceptions. E tier, because it occasionally works, but there's no way to ensure getting the good kind. Anarchy. F tier. Anarchy means no government at all. Pure freedom. No laws, no rulers, no coercion. Individuals and voluntary associations handle everything. In theory, this is appealing. No taxes, no bureaucracy, no politicians. People cooperate freely without state interference. In practice, it doesn't work. Power vacuums fill immediately. The moment you remove formal government, informal power structures emerge. Warlords, mafias, strongmen. Someone always has more capacity for violence and willingness to use it. They become the de facto rulers, worse than any democratic government. Every historical example of state collapse shows this. Somalia, without government, meant clan warfare and piracy. Medieval periods of weak central authority meant local lords brutalizing peasants. F tier, because anarchy is theoretically coherent and practically impossible. It's not a system. It's the absence of system. What replaces it is always worse. Communism. F tier. Communism promises a classless society where workers own everything collectively. No exploitation, from each according to ability to each according to need. In practice, every communist state became a nightmare. The Soviet Union killed millions through purges and famine. Mao's China killed tens of millions. Cambodia's Khmer Rouge killed a quarter of the population. North Korea continues its horror. The track record is unambiguous. Why the gap between theory and practice? Eliminating private property requires massive state power. Someone must decide what gets produced and who gets what. Those decisions concentrate in a party elite that becomes a new ruling class. Central planning can't match markets at coordinating complex economies. Without prices signaling scarcity, planners guess wrong repeatedly. The system requires silencing critics because the critics are right. F tier, because communism has been tried repeatedly, it fails every time, the human cost is measured in millions of corpses. Fascism. F tier. Fascism combines authoritarian nationalism with state-directed capitalism. The nation as organism, the leader as its head, citizens as cells serving the whole. Fascist states initially seem effective. Order, purpose, national pride. The appeal to people exhausted by chaos is real and dangerous. But fascism requires enemies. The ideology needs threats to mobilize against. Internal enemies get persecuted. External enemies get attacked. War isn't a bug, it's a feature. The system can't exist in peace because peace removes its justification. This means fascism destroys itself and everything around it. Nazi Germany lasted 12 years, killed millions, and ended in rubble. Italian fascism collapsed into occupation. Japanese militarism brought nuclear fire. Even before collapse, fascism means concentration camps and genocide. These aren't excesses, but natural expressions of the ideology. F tier, because fascism inevitably produces catastrophe. Totalitarianism. F tier. Totalitarianism is total state control over every aspect of life. Not just government, but thought, culture, family, everything. The state becomes everything. The individual becomes nothing. North Korea is the purest modern example. Every aspect controlled. Every deviation punished. The leader cult approaches religion. Citizens exist to serve the state, and the state exists to perpetuate leadership. This system requires massive resources for surveillance and control. Secret police, informant networks, propaganda apparatuses, prison camps. These consume output while producing nothing but fear. Innovation dies because new ideas threaten control. Why would the state permit thoughts it doesn't manage? Creativity requires freedom. Totalitarianism forbids freedom. The result is stagnation everywhere except the technology of control itself. Totalitarian states end in collapse or reform. Pure totalitarianism burns out. It consumes more than it produces. F tier, because totalitarianism represents government as cancer. It produces only misery and ultimately collapses.